Welcome, everybody, to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler, the Thanksgiving edition. We don't have any golden gobblers to give out or turkey bags or anything like that.
I played in quite a few of those games.
You were going to bring something from Sentinel, but you forgot.
Well,
and I'm sure they would have been happy to have a turkey here for us.
I dropped the ball on there. I'm a defensive player. I don't always catch the ball.
Yeah.
So next year.
I'm going to give you a plug for Sentinel, so I'm going to. We'll be shopping there. So
okay, good. Ballestery owned and operated.
That's right.
Cool.
So let's talk about. Let's get right into it. Packers play on Thanksgiving Day. Tell me what your memories of playing, on Thanksgiving and how quickly it was, the turnaround.
Yeah, it was always tough for the linemen because they hit every play. But if you're a guy like James Starks, and we'll talk about that later, or if any guy that's banged up, it's tough. But normally, Coach Holmgren would give those guys their Monday off, and then we would practice Tuesday, then after a light practice.
With no pads, right?
No pads. Because for the most part, this is the 11th or 12th week, everybody's adrenaline is still going, you're excited. I used to like it because you'd rather play a game than practice anyway.
Yeah.
So we would use those 2 days, especially with Detroit. We knew the game plan because you play them twice. So that helped out a lot.
Right, and what I was going to bring up is I was talking to the defensive line coach, Mike Turgovec, and he's saying, I like these games because it's just players against players. Nobody's fooling each other with game plans. There's not enough time to come up with these really extensive game plans. It's just going to be,
my players got to play better.
Right, whose players are going to be better that day.
Well, 2 guys going into this game that really sticks out of my mind. Greg Jennings and Woodson, both of those guys from the area. TJ Lang, throw him in there as well. And Woodson always plays well up there, and so does Greg. But I also have a memory of Jennings, and he's going to kill me for saying this, but he was wide open down the middle, and it was an interception.
He dropped it. It bounced right off his hand.
Well,
that
you said it, I did,
difference in the game. Let's talk about Starks, though. This is an issue. He's coming off. He got really lucky. He could have had a really serious knee injury. And how important do you think he is to their offense right now? His numbers aren't huge, but without him, I don't know about if they have a running game.
Well, the depth is not there because now all of the onus will go on Ryan Grant and a guy that has no experience. So, but if you know Starks, he's a tough guy, and he said basically his swelling has gone down. He's going to play because you need him because if Detroit plays so much cover 2, where they got those safeties really deep, he was very effective against Tampa, those little drop-down, checked-off passes. And also, in the 4th quarter, he had some very good runs, had that over 20-yard run. So he's very valuable to this offense right now.
They may need him more in the passing game than they do the running game.
Absolutely.
The way teams are playing him these days.
Right, because if everybody's just going to drop off deep, Aaron was just so smart, just dumping it off. That's what the defense is going to give you. It's 10, 15 yards every time.
Packers are going to be facing a quarterback who we know has a broken finger. He started out rough last week against Carolina. We're talking about Matthew Stafford. And, in our watching of the tape, and we'll show this in X's and O's, he's a little prone to staring down receivers.
Yes.
Did you see, and is that something the Packers need to take advantage of?
Absolutely. I think if you look at all of his interceptions, that, he's always staring down his receiver. And I think his progression is a little slow. So in other words, if he wants to go to the right, he'll take a peek to the left and come back. Good quarterbacks, if you know you're going to the right, you'll open up to the left because you know what's going on, and then you just kind of come back, but you're ready to throw the ball.
Yeah.
He just kind of hangs in there, so he gets sacked a little bit. But for the most part, the guy throws a lot of touchdowns to him.
Right. That being said, he
has a very strong arm. I watched him when he was at Georgia. That's why he was the #1 pick. He's a big kid. The players love him. He's very energetic. He commands his huddle. He has the offense down.
He's tough. He can take hits.
And that's what I'm saying. He's been fragile up to year, he took some good hits, and he's been showing up every week.
Right, right. I mean, and the Packers, we all know the Packers' pass defense has been terrible the last couple of weeks, and pretty much all season, really.
Yeah, but they also lead the league in interception.
Yeah.
And they're playing a quarterback, and Tramon Williams, to me, the second half of the season, all the corners in the league, he's right at one of the best because he's very opportunistic. And so he's going to get an opportunity to play a guy, Calvin Johnson, who he can really make some strides on.
Yeah, let's talk about Calvin Johnson and that matchup. Now, this guy is superhuman. I mean, he's tall, he's fast, he can jump,
great hands,
he's strong, got good hands.
Good
other than that, he's no good.
Right.
I mean, he is really a good player. Now, I think they'll probably use Tramon Williams on him, maybe with Morgan Burnett over the top. What is Tramon Williams, what's the most important thing? You can't gamble on him, right? I mean, it'd be dumb to gamble, wouldn't it?
Well, that's his game, though, Tom.
It has become his game.
His game is very optimistic. So if you're Calvin Johnson, you better be where you're supposed to be, or it's an interception.
But what about on the other side for Tramon Williams?
Well, it's a bad matchup down the field. Because if you're ever down the field one-on-one, you got a 6'5", 6'6" guy, Megatron, and you have a smaller guy that doesn't tackle very well. But I tell you what, if the ball is off any little bit, you can see Tramon. See, Tramon can be put in the position where he can be a GOAT or a hero. And I think he loves that pressure. And he loves the fact that this is the matchup that puts you in the Revis and all these great corners. These are the matchups.
Right.
You got to follow the best receiver. Now, with that being said, now you can put Woodson on Burleson, and Woodson can just do his game. He can play his game, or you can go nickel, and you can get very creative and put Sam Shields on Burleson, and now you can have Woodson covering the tight end, backs, or whatever, but going after the quarterback. So I'm very interested to see how the game plan goes for the Packers.
Tight ends have been hurting the Packers lately, and I think you'll see Woodson on Pettigrew and Scheffler quite a bit. In this game.
Otherwise, you're going to see Desmond Bishop on Pettigrew, and that could be a bad matchup as well.
Yes, exactly. Let's go to the other side with Aaron Rodgers now. He had a bad game on Sunday, only
any quarterback would love that. And I love the fact that people say he didn't have a good game. I love it because if you're Aaron, you love that because you've set a standard so high that just over 100 rating, 299, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, it's awesome.
Let's talk about the relationship with Jordy Nelson. I think this is probably partially due to the coverage that, is being spent on Jennings and Finley, that Nelson is getting the one-on-ones, and he's taking advantage of it.
Yes.
When do the teams shift back to Nelson? Do they? Or
well,
do
it's just like anything else. When the Wildcat was big, coordinators paid attention to it, they shut it down. And the same thing is going to happen with Tebow. If someone running around, the coordinators are going to figure out and going to shut it down. You remember, up until this year, Jordy Nelson was spot duty. Now he's a legitimate starter, and I think right now he's better than any number 2 wide receivers in the league. With that being said, if you look at his charts where he catches the ball and his big numbers, he's a big play guy. So you want to try to limit him, to 10 and 12 yards and make it hard for him.
Right.
But anytime Aaron sees a one safety high, the ball's going to Jordy Nelson.
Right.
So that's the matchup that he wants. If it's 2 safeties, then you try to get the ball to 85 or 88. So it's almost like a easy progression for Aaron. If you see any corner out there, man-to-man on Jordy Nelson, is stealing. And so, I mean, I don't know if he's going to make the Pro Bowl or not, but it's kind of hard to argue with the numbers that he's putting up this year.
Yeah, a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
A lot of touchdowns. Well, I think, one of the aspects of that is that he's very good when he has man-to-man coverage.
Yes.
I mean, he's big and physical, and he's usually facing the team's maybe 3rd best corner.
That's true.
And so he's getting a lot of advantages here.
What do you think about this Rod Demoski, good friend of mine, this being a white receiver and people underestimate him? Is there anything to that?
I think it's a bunch of bull crap myself.
You think?
I do.
So he's just beating guys.
I think
you don't think guys are underestimated?
I don't. I don't know. Maybe so. But I think if you're if you're anybody, you're looking at tape. If you're anybody intelligent,
Right.
you're looking at the player. You're not looking at
That's
anything
true.
more. You both basically see his helmet and the film. You know,
But
what
people
else you
do
see?
say, how could you see a white guy against, Carolina going 94 yards? How can you see him going 65, 70 yards? What is this? But see, Jordy Nelson, in his mind, I'm just doing my job, and he's a little embarrassed about all this attention.
Yeah,
you know?
and
he don't really want the attention on him. That's smart.
I think he felt bad that story came out the way it did. I mean, I don't think it's anyone's fault, but I think he just, I don't think he really. I think he was doing it more half-heartedly, like maybe they are, underestimating.
But
And
it's
his players were ribbing him about it.
Right, and I think it's fair because they did the same thing with African American quarterbacks. They weren't giving them an opportunity. Now, Jordy Nelson, to me, he can set sights on, the Wes Welkers of the world. Hey, man, it doesn't matter what color you are. I'm going to separate.
Right. Maybe that's a scout prejudice too.
Right.
That
Yeah,
they're
maybe
looking
true.
at guys or coaches that
Right.
it's just been ingrained in them that that's not the way.
Well, I'm
to go.
glad
Just
he's
like
on the
it
Packers.
took scouts time to realize that black quarterbacks can be
Absolutely.
successful as well.
And coaches.
Right,
So,
and
absolutely.
coaches.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
Anyway, we could talk about that all day.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
we'll move on, and actually, let's wrap it up, and we'll have 3 interesting plays from the Lions. We're going to look all at Lions plays, so you have an idea of what the Packers will be facing on
And this was brought to you by Sendix, SendixMarket.com. Matter of fact, if you want all your little ornaments for your Christmas tree, Market has great setups in all of the 9 or 10 stores. So one of them is like made of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I asked her why. She said her husband proposed to her over a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So it's pretty neat. So, and plus WJ Kuhn in Oak Creek, you can go see those guys. If your car breaks down, you know it's winter, they'll hook you up. And mention my name, they'll even give you 10% off.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.